Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome back to the Struggle is Real in Grief webcast podcast. I'm your co host, Vanessa.
And I'm Leon. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Loving Father, we thank you for your mercy and your kindness and for protecting us in the midst of craziness going on planet Earth. We thank you for that. Now, Father, as we discuss some issues today, we ask that you would bless those that are listening,
Mhm.
those that are watching, that they would be touched, that they will be blessed by what they hear. And we'll give you all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 So, do you have any announcements that you'd like to make?
Well, one of the main announcements is that I'm still working on my book
Mhm.
and expecting that it should be out sometime this quarter. It's called Pursuing Hope, and it's one that those who are grieving, especially those who have lost a child, will definitely want to check out, and look for the tools that will be a blessing by God's grace to each of you or someone that you know.
Okay, very good. Listeners, today we have a very, very special guest with us, a good friend of mine. I don't want to count the years, but we've known each other for quite some time, and uh, a young man that I'm very proud of, and I'm going to let you listen to what he has to say. And this will be the last time because he'll talk about me if I continue to do this. It's Dr. Ulysses Grant Baldwin and Jr. Don't let me leave that out because I never leave out the third.
Right,
And
right, right.
we're happy to have him with us today. Um, I'm going to call you Grant because that's what I know you as.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
But I'd like for you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself. You know, where you were born and raised, your education, family, um, and then give us a short description of your career and how you got there.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about myself. My name, as Leon mentioned, is Ulysses Grant Baldwin Jr.
Yeah.
I go by Grant. I'm from a small town in North Carolina called Whiteville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I was actually born in another small town called Lumberton, North Carolina, which is probably
Ah,
35 minutes from Whiteville. Basically, as far as educationally, I did my gained my associate in arts degree from Southeast Community College, and I matriculated in my bachelor's degree in social work at UNC Pembroke, the University of North Carolina Pembroke. Conducted my graduate master's in social work at Fayetteville State University in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Then went out west
all right.
to the west to for my doctorate in behavioral health from the College of Health Solutions at Arizona State University in Tempe. And I'm also a graduate from the Executive Healthcare program at the Anderson School of Management at UCLA.
All right.
Yeah,
One of my
so I've
schools.
had my chance from the south to the um, to the west, and it's been an interesting journey and experience, and I'm very grateful for that. What I do as far as uh, career-wise, just a brief description, I'm a healthcare executive. I have my own consulting practice that I actually do a lot of consulting on healthcare business with a lot of with many CEOs and CFOs in healthcare systems throughout the country.
Mm.
Also, a part of the uh, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in research at the Cecil G. Shepherd Center of Health Services, in which I consult about 50 clinics
Mm.
in Western North Carolina. I'm also a clinical licensed addiction specialist and psychotherapist by profession.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
excellent.
So, as far as work, diagnosing and providing psychotherapy to, um, as far as with patients who have mental health disorders, that are exacerbating their medical conditions. Another thing is I'm an adjunct professor in a doctoral behavioral health program at the Cummins Behavior Institute that's in Phoenix.
Oh.
And so I have a mixture of a few things, going on at this time in life. And what led me there, basically, what led me there is I have to start from the beginning. I feel like I didn't choose the profession; the profession kind of chose me, in the sense that I was, as a child, I was always trying to figure out what led, why things happened the way that they occurred. Just really trying to explore, like if I see someone that's on the street and different other things, and they're homeless. I was like, okay, how did that person get there? What was the pathology of them getting there? What did they encounter? And I was always interested in the story, and how the person got from one point to the other. And so I always had an interest in figuring things out, trying to figure out, this in my mind, just trying to figure out what happened, how did you get there? And for the fact that as far as church concerned, as far as my mother, she was pretty instrumental in kind of guiding me into the profession without knowing it, because I grew up in church, and she was always about service and work and reaching out, being people, and always kind of conditioned me and my siblings think about other people other than yourself. She was very heavy on that. So she drug us around to home care settings, nursing homes, and we had to sing, and all the different other stuff. So my whole life, my upbringing has been of helping people and servicing others, and I give a lot of credit to my mom for introducing that to me. I think the one thing that really stood up in my mind, I remember, we were growing up in the projects, and she actually, there was a Caucasian lady who stayed in another complex across town with my cousins, and for some reason, the lady lost her home, and my mom somehow found out, and she brought the young lady and allowed her to come in, and she cooked for her and different other things. And I remember sitting at the table and counseling this young lady, and I'm sitting here like, what is this? This is the first time I've seen somebody of a different ethnicity in my house. I could see in public house, and I was like, and that stuck with me, that, okay, I know we broke, we poor, but you're willing to open the door for someone who's in need. And that stuck with me throughout the years. So then trying to, of course, the way my brain works, I'm trying to figure out my mother, like, why did she do that? Why did she do that? And it was really by her faith, what she believed in, her own, stories and different things. So that, in a nutshell, what led me into my profession and career. I just, the education is the formality pieces and the credentialing pieces and stuff, but it really started at the crux of watching my mom portraying, acting out being a Christian. That's all I know.
That's it.
So yeah.
Grant, I have to say something before my wife asks you a question. Are you sure you're not Jamaican? The 10 job.
You know what I'm saying? Listen,
You go right.
I got a lot. Now imagine. Now check this out. Listen, man. Imagine me coming. As far as my students concerned, different things. They see my name, right? Ulysses Grant Baldwin Jr. This. So they're expecting a whole totally different person.
Of course.
Up there, I'm all locked down.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but with that, I just have a work ethic, man. I mean, like how we met each other, I was working.
Yeah, that is true.
At
that
the
is
Walmart.
So true.
as a interesting enough, I was just getting out of high school when I met.
That's right, man.
Yeah, I just that was I met you the summer that I got out of high school.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
Wow.
that was 1994, man.
Wow. Wow.
But
Don't
you
say
haven't
too much more, man. Don't say too much more.
you haven't aged, baby. You haven't aged a bit, man. But
Wow.
man, yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny.
Go ahead,
That's
babe.
funny. Um, First of all, I want to say what hats off basically to your mom. What a blessing. What a blessing she is has been to you as well as other people apparently. It's just a beautiful
Yeah.
portrait that you described. So tell me, in your line of work, how often is it that you have to deal with grieving public?
Oh, wow.
Mhm,
In my line of work, a lot.
mhm,
Um, Not only as a practicing psychotherapist, I would actually, screen, assess, diagnose, and actually provide the treatment component as far as
Mm.
psychotherapy as far as grieving concern. Also, just in life in general, in the public, like with my students, um, as they're matriculating through the programs and trying to get through, there's some bumps in the road where uh, either it's a current situation that may occur,
mhm.
and then also it's something about intense education that brings out uh, different components that people have pretty much just pushed down in the back of their mind.
Yes.
And the
Mm,
rigor
Yes.
morals of a course can bring stuff up. It brings up everything.
Yeah.
So from an educational aspect of it, it's very frequent.
Of course it
It's
is.
mm,
extremely frequent. So, and
mm.
there's, as far as the different cycles of that people are in their lives and grief, I've had the opportunity in the far as the public to just meet people where they
Right.
Yeah.
are in the possession. So it's a lot.
Of
Wow.
Grieving
course.
is
Yeah.
their occurrence.
Well, where we are now, man, um,
Hmm.
with this COVID epidemic,
Hmm.
um, how's it changed the way you look at grief, and has it changed your work day? You know, the intensity, how busy you are, just because of this COVID epidemic.
Uh, Verrett family, it's changed everything.
Mm,
Um,
It's changed everything as far as the way service is delivered.
mhm,
Um, you know, I mean, it's more of a telepsych now.
mhm.
With people trying to protect themselves. I hate that it took this for us to get more into the telehealth aspect of it, but
true,
I was
true.
always in it, but then everybody else, was somewhat in it and out of it. Now it's just a way of life.
Yeah.
And so the onset of this epidemic has really positioned people in my line of business where they actually have to sit still
Mm,
Um,
and deal
hmm.
with the things that are very, running from or dealing with. It's like you are made to sit still.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see this everything has brought out a lot, whether it could be the very good or the very bad, or uh, the things that, as far as people push back in their subconscious mind, uh, dealing with things that their everyday routine was pretty much keeping them busy to stay away from. It's like
mm.
it's really compacted everything where, there's a lot of stillness, and so the business has intensified
Of
Wow.
course. Of course. We
Mm.
talk about this all the
uh,
time,
because
Grant.
yeah,
We
yeah,
talk about it all the time because um, pushing down,
Repressing those
repressing,
feelings.
delaying it
mhm,
ends up pushing people into complicated grief,
Mhm.
you know.
yes,
And
absolutely, that, yeah.
maybe this is kind of helping um, people to open their eyes and realize I better grieve.
Yeah.
I better take care of this now,
Yeah.
or it's gonna hit me 5, 10 years down the line at a time when I can't handle it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly. And
And
it's
so,
more.
yeah, this, yeah, this has definitely been a very interesting part of, of everyone's life. Is where you had the, the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever been in a situation where we were made to sit still. I
Mm,
can
Right.
think that, we're used to earthquakes and hurricanes and stuff, that kind of, but that's like for a brief, like little hours or something like that. Days and months, bruh.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
That's
Most
something.
of,
So
wow.
it's
yeah.
definitely changed, intensified the business. I mean, uh, despite the fact that you have the natural, what I say, the natural pattern of people in the public dealing with things, but it also it's created an onset,
Hmm.
which are introducing newer people into,
Right.
um, as far as services are concerned and treatments concerned. It was an onset for many people.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of hurting people out there.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot that need to be reached. So, in your situation, you said that you deal with the grieving public a lot.
Hmm.
Um, what has this done, or how has it affected your own personal thoughts about your own mortality?
Ooh, wow, that's a great question. It's impacted me in a way that, um, I really get to see how powerful, as far as the creator is.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it has totally changed and altered, my you know being of just seeing how powerful and how he moves.
Mm.
Is I mean, I remember growing up and hearing, reading the Bible about, all those pandemics, different
Yeah.
things happening in the Bible. Like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
I don't know what that is. Um, but this here,
Yeah.
COVID-19 has showed me, like, hey, I knew I didn't have any control. I knew I had no power, where there's something bigger and greater than myself,
Yeah.
Mm.
and it's completely changed. Uh, it's actually placed me in a situation where I had a chance to go, within myself,
Mm-hmm.
and pace myself, and look at what's important and what's not important at this
Mm.
Yeah.
phase of my life. So it's placed me it was kind of been therapeutic, in a sense, for me. But this has changed. It just really showed me how powerful the creator is in general, and what's most important, what's not important, and where, things should be structured in life.
Right.
Your
According to, like,
priorities change.
bro, it changed. I mean, I'm flying all over the country. I'm going over this place and that place, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, this, like, I don't have this access. I got to hold up. I got to, dial back a little bit. Just
Mm-hmm.
it just put me in a place of uh, like silence of,
Wow.
Huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so it's like, okay, and it's definitely changed everything around me, and the way that
Yeah.
I look at my
Right.
own mortality is like, and dealing with patients with as far as who being diagnosed with COVID-19.
Mm.
It's just like, hey, this is it's all it changed everything
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that
Hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
Even in working in medicine, I mean, it just changed everything.
Yeah.
It's like it's something where you got your when you see the people who having emergencies and having a heart attack and different other things,
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of pushed to the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And but people with the COVID is like, hey, this is right now. This is like the emergent thing and different thing. I mean, it's just like, wow. It's like,
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Okay. Well, we are enjoying our interview
Yes, temporarily
with
lost Grant.
Grant, but I'm sure he'll come back as soon as he possibly can. It's an interesting thing that Grant was saying about even emergencies
Mm-hmm.
in particular hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
When a heart attack comes through, or when something else comes through that used to be the number one priority,
Mm-hmm.
the number one emergency,
Mm-hmm.
they now have to wait.
Wow.
They now have to wait for those individuals.
Which is going to be sort of a grieving process for those individuals who need that help. They're grieving the loss of that immediate assistance and being prioritized,
Oh my goodness.
uh, which further complicates their situation.
And waiting rooms were already
Mm,
a hard way to go.
yeah.
You had waiting times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you think that you are a priority, um, the priority has changed,
Mm,
and I think most of our listeners understand that.
yeah.
If you have not been touched recently by the COVID epidemic with someone personally in your life,
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee that someone in your life, someone close to you, someone that you have knowledge of, someone that may be a relative,
Mm-hmm.
will eventually, it will eventually touch you.
Right, especially with the numbers rising. We are at an all-time high now
Yes,
here
we
in
are.
the United States. So a lot of people are hurting, a lot of people are grieving
Yes, they are.
and need the help that Grant provides and others like the grief support groups that we facilitate,
Yes.
um, the podcast, as many resources. People need as many resources as they can get their hands on.
And so we're going to
Oh,
pause for just a moment
mhm.
and we're going to see if we can get Grant back on. All right, folks, we're back. And, you can't ever really depend on technology unless it's connected directly to the Lord, as Grant was talking about his power. But there is one question I wanted to ask, and be as candid as you can. Um,
Okay.
what was one of your own personal losses, and how did you handle that journey in grief?
Wow. Ah, good question. The most complicated aspect of grief I ever had to deal with was probably my grandfather's
Oh,
passing. Um, Very influential man in my life. My hero,
hmm.
the person who was like personally responsible for me seeking out education and everything, and just was a great role model. Um, I didn't deal with it very well, in as far as his death is concerned. It was very traumatic for me in a
Uh-huh.
sense. It was to the point where I couldn't even attend the funeral.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
So
Wow.
what I did was I actually went to my grandmother, and I remember them calling me at work and telling me what happened. And of course, me being, grand, I'm like, okay, I'm cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm typing real slow and stuff like that. And my supervisor's like, hey, maybe you need to go home, Grant.
Mm.
You just received this news and you just maybe need to go home. I'm like, okay. But yeah, it was so traumatic for me that I could not attend the funeral. And I got permission from my grandmother. Um, I told her what was going on. I just realized something was going on with me that she was like, baby, if you can't handle it, don't come. I was
Okay.
Mm.
like,
Okay.
we're cool.
Yeah.
So I actually, in my mind and in my subconscious mind, I froze it. It was like a period of time where my brain, I froze it. I put it aside. I didn't want to hear anything.
Mm.
related to him passing, because it was like, if I hear something or I see a picture or anything, that it will just put me in a situation where I had no control, and me trying to stay in control. So I
Mm.
froze it in my mind and um, focused on my studies.
Okay.
Mm.
I dug into it, and I think it was my doing my graduate school process, and I did everything. I kept finding myself putting myself out there to serve people. That was used as a coping thing. When the earthquakes happened in Haiti,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I went.
Yeah. Of
Like
course.
I'm
Yeah.
going all the way around the world trying to service and help people, and I couldn't put myself in the situation to be helped,
Mm.
and I didn't deal with it. I pushed it back, and I think when my graduation day from graduate school, and I was somewhere in my mind, I'm sitting there expecting to see him,
Mm.
and that's when it like the reality of what actually happened. So my graduation was more of one thing of excitement, but it was also the onset of my grieving.
Your grief. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I couldn't separate education and him.
Mm.
Oh.
Uh, so I'm constantly pursuing it, so it's constantly reminding me. So that was the onset. I didn't deal with it very, very well. I stuffed it. But interestingly, in dealing with that, remember, despite I'm dealing with it, I still haven't seen anything. Not a funeral program or anything.
Mm.
Um, and the the interesting thing was this. Uh, I knew there was a funeral. I knew that there was a service and everything that took place.
Mhm.
So years later, you're looking at, man, it came back to me maybe like a couple of years ago. I had one of my older cousins to pass.
Mm.
Mhm.
He was also raised by my grandfather, and I went to his funeral. I'm good, I'm going
Yeah.
to the funeral, And when they was laying my cousin to rest, my one of my older female cousins, she was like, well, I come out here every Veterans Day and everything, put some flowers on Uncle Willie's grave. I'm sitting here like, you do what?
Mm.
She said, yeah, I come out here and I put, Veterans Day, I come out and make sure, I put flowers on his grave. I said, so you're telling me he's buried here? Like, yeah.
Mm.
I said,
Oh.
okay, where? She said, right there, right there. And I'm sitting here like, and that's the first time I seen anything.
Ah.
Wow.
I couldn't run from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I couldn't chase it. But that's when more of the emotion came out, because I was like, I had my cousin, but then this was the onset of me actually
Mm.
dealing with it.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, wow. So I just left, went in my car, man, and just
Of course
let
you
it
did.
go. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
can finally I can finally get it out
Yeah.
Yes.
of that. So I'm one of the people with the complicated grief that dealt
Okay.
with it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a very it's a very true statement of not dealing with it, and people deal with grief in so many different ways. But one thing I have learned
Mhm.
from this situation was that is healthier
Mhm.
to address it, to face it and address it. Avoiding it will create other things to come out.
Wow.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, and complicate. Yeah, so I'm fitting that category. I had that experience, and it was tough, but it also brought in perspective. The bigger picture, which that we all are going to leave here,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
and the bigger picture of it is being prepared uh, to leave.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is that I learned that my grandfather, who was intellectual, I learned that when I saw that marker, I talked to him then that I didn't know that he gave his life to Christ,
Wow.
right before he passed.
Ah,
What a
And I
blessing.
was like, what? That dude? Like, yeah. I mean, he wasn't like he was just a person who was like real hard on the church, hard on the
yeah,
church.
yeah, yeah,
And it had a lot to deal with some childhood stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but the deal is that was like the magnifying piece. Like, it's just,
Wow.
it kind of lifted me out. Like,
yeah, yeah,
my man, he made that move.
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, dude, you straight, you like, I was wondering where he gonna go. So, nah, seriously,
Yeah,
seriously
still,
though. But
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I was like, wow. And that was the news.
yeah,
So that kind of brought on that, this is a transition for my grandfather.
Mm.
And, one day I'm going to see him again.
yeah.
We'll be in a whole totally different setting, man. So that was like, I'm glad that this information was saved for me at that point. So
Yeah.
that helped me move on. That helped me like, okay, this
Beautiful.
my dude got his soul right though. So that was cool.
Wow.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, tell us, Grant, actually, our listeners, if you could give them some kind of takeaway, something that will help them in their own personal struggles with grief. And if you have a special message for men, males in particular,
Yes, yes,
um, that would be wonderful. We
Right. Some takeaways out that I would address is to recognize, definitely to anyone, but specifically to the brothers, of that, realizing that grief is something, we're so used to being in control of everything, control of our emotions and everything, and that grieving is a natural process
yes,
Mhm.
in life. There's not, um, and that you're not alone in the grieving process. There are other people who are experiencing the same thing. So it's a part of the normal process. The Another takeaway is that there's different avenues for you to actually uh, process as far as grief is concerned. I definitely encourage therapy
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
yes,
for certain, and the other thing real big is like you have to seek God,
Yeah.
yeah,
um, big time. You have to
mm,
seek that, because that'll give you the whole bigger picture of what's occurring. Everything is an onset of pretty much of evolving and different things, and grieving is just a part of that cycle. We all going to have folk who leave us, that we're not meant to be here forever. But I encourage, as far as faith, therapy, um, a combination of both,
Mhm. Mhm.
to help get as far as a healing and recovery and setting yourself on a new pathway. Um, I wouldn't, encourage, that's why a lot of people in grieving go towards drugs and alcohol. They're trying to find something to cope,
that's right,
Right.
right,
and, people, I like to remove the stigma of, as far as, drug addicts or anything like that, because basically it's just self-medicating,
Mm.
right,
it's people, and the deal is that there's a lot of healthier ways other than leaning towards those things, or
yes.
those, so just therapy and God.
There you go.
Yes.
Seek
Yes.
both. And
Exactly.
and to my Christian folk, there's nothing wrong with therapy.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. That we
It does.
advocate that. We
Yes, we
advocate
do.
that.
Brothers, black men. Yes,
Yes.
it'll be extremely beneficial.
Yes.
Yes.
Extremely beneficial. So those are the takeaways that I really encourage
Well,
everyone. But I definitely want my brothers to get in there,
yes.
and those two things, and it's, let them know this is normal. This is part of the process. It's okay to give up that control, but
Mm-hmm.
you're giving that control to, as far as God's concerned,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and you're in, as far as treatment's concerned, you're putting yourself in a situation to work out mind and body
Yes.
of what you're encountering during the grief process.
Wow. Wow.
Great takeaways. Thank you so much.
I was going to say thank you for that because many Christian men, many men that fear God,
Mm-hmm.
um, in any aspect of religion they might be in, feel as though it's such a manly, strong thing to keep from showing and involving yourself in allowing the release of those emotions. But I
Hmm.
always lead people back to the fact that even Jesus himself, when he
Yeah,
approached the grave of Lazarus,
my man.
even though he realized that he was the resurrection and the life and knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the grave,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus wept. And in Isaiah 53, it also says that he is acquainted with
A
grief,
man of
a man of
sorrows.
sorrows and acquainted with grief.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
as Christians, we've been taught the opposite direction for so many years,
Mm.
Hmm. Hmm.
you know, and
That grieving is a sign of faithlessness when actually it
it
isn't.
isn't. It's just the opposite. Grant,
Absolutely. My man.
Dr. Grant.
Man, you know it's Grant.
Listen, listen. I love you, and we are so
Bro.
happy. This was an amazing interview. We thank you for being as candid as you were, and just know that our listeners are going to be blessed.
Yes, they are. Yes,
Wow.
they are. And
That's
listeners, we
beautiful.
want you to know that you can find this on the podcast, The Struggle is Real in Grief podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcast, and basically anywhere where you like listening to podcasts. And it's also on our YouTube channel,
Right.
Verret Ministries. Verret Ministries on YouTube. You'll be able to find this resource as well.
All right. Well, may God richly bless you. And once again, Grant, don't leave the country because we might because we love to talk to you again sometime in the future.
Yes.
Sounds well, brother. We'll definitely make that happen.
All right. God bless.